My name is Felicia Wimbish, and I'm auditioning for the role of Jessica's mom. I'm submitting this audition via media because a dear friend of mine lost her son yesterday, and I'm traveling to Florida for the services, and the service happened to be on Tuesday. First, I'm going to start with telling you about my relationship with my children, Daniel and Rachel, and how over the years, starting around 12 years old for each one of them, they are now, Rachel's 21, Daniel's 24, how these conversations flowed. First, I started out by talking to them about waiting until they got married, about how important it is to truly follow that sequence of falling in love, getting married, and then having children. And I push this for my kids because a lot of relatives, a lot of people in our circle from, school, church, children were having babies, and I didn't want that for my kids. I wanted them to follow the sequence in which my husband and I did. So started out around 12 years old, as I said earlier, and preached the part about, from a religious standpoint as well, that we're supposed to wait till we get married. And then peer pressure kept kicking in, about not waiting, about trying it out before you make that final commitment. And I guess around 15 or 16, both of my kids started expressing different views than mine of waiting. But I'm going to focus on Rachel. Rachel hung in there, and as she got older in her teen years, weekly I had discussions with both of my kids, and mainly with Rachel, who I'm going to talk about. But it was about waiting till you find that perfect person, because if you happen to have casual sex with someone and this 15-year-old boy goes out and tells all of his friends that he's had sex with you, are you going to be embarrassed? Yes. She said she would be humiliated. So therefore, since you can't trust anybody but yourself to keep what you do to yourself, then wait. Wait till you find that perfect match. Because, what I stressed to both of the kids was that you can't look at somebody and tell whether or not they have a disease, and especially, some diseases, but these sexually transmitted diseases such as AIDS could kill you. And I told my Rachel, Rach, I don't care what that person says, they don't know if they have it or not. So you don't want to go out and risk your life. And so when you have sex, you have to ask yourself, is that person worth dying for? If they're not worth dying for, then you better hold off, and you better protect yourself. Also, I stress the fact that condoms had to be used no matter what until you got completely married. And the reason why you wanted to use condoms, because condoms help reduce the chance of dying. All I could think about is AIDS was so rampant, especially in Florida where we lived. And it was such a painful death of not knowing you have something, then you give it to people. And I didn't want my kids to be part of that. So I pushed and explained to them how having their partner, my son wear a condom, my daughter wear, if she had sex with someone, they had to wear a condom because it did two things. Yeah, it prevented from having a baby, a very high percentage, but it also had a very high percentage of getting a lot of sexually transmitted diseases. And that was the most important thing, not to risk her life. And even when she decides to have birth control pills, now she's on them at 19, she said just in case, she did get them, she has them, and I'm not being naive, but one of the things I've stressed to her, and she agrees with me, is that condoms must be worn at all times because of the risk of life. All right, so that's kind of the talk I've had with my kids over time. Oh, let me add this one part. We would drive down the street, and I would say something like, look at that person. Aren't they really cute? Aren't they handsome? And, my kids were always like, yeah. I said, would you have sex with them? And they're like, Mom, that's crazy. But here's the deal. That person might look cute, they could be handsome, but you cannot look and tell whether or not they have a disease. And that's what I stress to my kids. All right.